Hi, I am Arthur. Welcome to MoneyDrip, the channel dedicated to economics and financial challenges. Today, we will present a documentary exploring the phenomenon of cartels in the banking sector, focusing on Japan and the control mechanism known as window guidance. We will discover how this approach influenced economic growth and competition both within and outside Japan, leading to an unprecedented economic transformation. Turn up the speakers and immerse yourselves in the story of implicit or explicit cartels in the banking sector. In the Japanese banking sector, window guidance was a control mechanism imposed by the Bank of Japan to regulate the number and extent of loans granted to other banks. This system ensured a stable banking hierarchy during the post-war era, with the exception of mergers. A banker stated that without these directives, competition would have led to severe consequences. The Japanese cartels, while limiting internal competition, did not prevent the country's corporations from rapidly becoming dominant in global markets. Authoritative economic theories advocated for a free market as the key to success, but Japan demonstrated the opposite, growing to become the world's second-largest economy without relying on the invisible hand of the free market. The Bank of Japan, despite claiming to support the free market, was embarrassed by the control exercised through window guidance. In official documents, these directives were downplayed and defined as voluntary credit control. This approach led bank employees to respond with complex technical terms to keep the process impenetrable to outsiders. In 1965, Japanese politicians introduced a first batch of treasury bonds into the market to increase spending without affecting the Bank of Japan. As a result, the Ministry of Finance became responsible for the growing mountain of public debt. In the 1980s, industrialized countries abolished restrictions on capital movements, and Japan also seemed to undergo an economic transformation. Former governors of the Bank of Japan, Tadashi Sasaki and Romui Kawa, promoted 5-year and 10-year plans to liberalize the Japanese economy, making it more similar to the Western one. Japan faced the challenge of controlling cartels in the banking sector through the mechanism of window guidance. While this system curbed internal competition, it contributed to the rapid rise of Japanese corporations in global markets. However, in the 1980s, the country embarked on an economic transformation, seeking to adopt a model more akin to the Western approach. The proposal of the Advisory Group for Economic Restructuring, however, was not accepted without controversy. Members of the group who expressed dissent were relieved of their duties, while press articles were highly critical of the radical nature of the plan. Many observers considered it ambitious and requiring a complete revolution of every sector of Japan's economic, political, and social system. The report presented explicit demands, but the absence of details on how to achieve these objectives was embarrassing. The only hint hidden in the report concerned the implementation of the recommendations, assigning a significant role to fiscal and monetary policies. The proposal suggested using monetary policy to provoke a historic crisis severe enough to shake the vested interests of the Ministry of Finance, politicians, and Japanese companies. These actors, benefiting from the existing system, naturally resisted changes. The members of the advisory group believed that a crisis could convince citizens and interest groups of the need for change. The Bank of Japan significantly increased lending quotas, with an average annual increase of 15% by the late 1980s. A banker revealed that during the economic bubble period, there was a desire to further increase credit, but the Bank of Japan insisted on additional increases. This credit expansion not only led to a real estate bubble but also to a stock market bubble. Between 1985 and 1989, stock prices increased by 240%, and land prices by 245%. The effects of the bubble were extraordinary, to the extent that the value of the gardens around the Imperial Palace in central Tokyo was equal to that of the entire state of California. Surprisingly, despite Japan occupying only 1/26th the land area of the United States, the value of its territory was 4 times higher. The market value of just one of Tokyo's 23 districts, the Chiyoda Central District, exceeded the value of the entire country of Canada. Economists tried to justify the high land prices by citing the scarcity of new spaces for new commercial districts and corporate headquarters. The frenzied rush for properties in Tokyo's business districts gave rise to an era of prosperity but also raised concerns about possible market instability. The Japanese labor market expanded rapidly, spreading real fears of a labor shortage. Companies sought to attract final-year university students, inviting them on expensive trips to tourist destinations to persuade them to accept job offers. The country was experiencing a frenzied economic growth fueled by speculative investments, and the race for real estate and stocks reached astonishing proportions. Traditional Japanese manufacturing companies found themselves increasingly involved in financial speculation. Speculative investment funds, known as high-tech funds, were used to speculate in real estate and stocks, financed by substantial loans. The stock market frenzy spread, with many companies making more profits from speculative investments than from producing goods. Economists explained the impressive Japanese economic activity by attributing it to high productivity and innovative managerial techniques. Books on Japanese managerial strategies became international bestsellers, and the business world studied ancient samurai strategies to improve their performance. However, in reality, the Japanese economic miracle of the 1980s was less tied to managerial techniques and more to the role of credit policy directives. The Bank of Japan used these directives to create a gigantic economic bubble. Banks knew they could maintain lending quotas only by expanding credit, even in situations of low demand. A side effect of these directives was that banks granted loans even in the absence of demand, thus contributing to inflating the economic bubble. The rapid creation of money by the banking system further fueled economic growth, leading to an unprecedented credit expansion. When journalists asked the Bank of Japan for explanations regarding the sharp expansion of loans, the response was that the policy of monetary easing was ongoing, and a quantitative tightening of loans would be a contradiction. Therefore, the bank intended to maintain the policy of monetary easing for as long as possible, justifying the expansion of loans. While Japan prospered, the risk of an economic bubble became increasingly evident. Monetary policy supported growth, but the country faced significant challenges concerning international imbalances and structural adjustments in the economy. From 1987 onwards, the traditional principle of banks carefully selecting clients for granting loans was reversed. Japanese banks began adopting an aggressive strategy of seeking new customers. Anecdotes abounded about how banks offered loans at extremely low rates, pursuing customers like street vendors. The banks constantly exaggerated the estimates of land value, causing the ratio between land value and loans to often exceed 300%. This phenomenon, popularly called the money flood, was peculiar to the public, but financial experts knew that land prices were rising due to more complex reasons related to advanced financial technology. Economists explained the impressive Japanese economic activity by attributing it to high productivity and innovative managerial techniques. Books on Japanese managerial strategies became international bestsellers, and the business world studied ancient samurai strategies to improve their performance. However, in reality, the Japanese economic miracle of the 1980s was less tied to managerial techniques and more to the role of credit policy directives. The Bank of Japan used these directives to create a gigantic economic bubble. Banks knew they could maintain lending quotas only by expanding credit, even in situations of low demand. A side effect of these directives was that banks granted loans even in the absence of demand, thus contributing to inflating the economic bubble. The rapid creation of money by the banking system further fueled economic growth, leading to an unprecedented credit expansion. When journalists asked the Bank of Japan for explanations regarding the sharp expansion of loans, the response was that the policy of monetary easing was ongoing, and a quantitative tightening of loans would be a contradiction. Therefore, the bank intended to maintain the policy of monetary easing for as long as possible, justifying the expansion of loans. While Japan prospered, the risk of an economic bubble became increasingly evident. Monetary policy supported growth, but the country faced significant challenges concerning international imbalances and structural adjustments in the economy. From 1987 onwards, the traditional principle of banks carefully selecting clients for granting loans was reversed. Japanese banks began adopting an aggressive strategy of seeking new customers. Anecdotes abounded about how banks offered loans at extremely low rates, pursuing customers like street vendors. The banks constantly exaggerated the estimates of land value, causing the ratio between land value and loans to often exceed 300%. This phenomenon, popularly called the money flood, was peculiar to the public, but financial experts knew that land prices were rising due to more complex reasons related to advanced financial technology. When a country creates a large amount of money, part of this flow goes overseas in the form of investments. In the 1980s, Japan saw capital flows accumulating more than $2 billion in inflows and $132 billion in outflows in 1986. Japanese buyers purchased valuable goods, such as artwork, from all around the world. Japan also acquired significant assets in the United States, including the Rockefeller Center, Columbia Pictures, and Pebble Beach Golf Course. Foreign investments were possible because Japan could print money without worrying about devaluing its currency. The value of the Japanese currency was determined by exchange agents, and Japan managed to control its value through sophisticated financial strategies. However, accumulating large amounts of money and spending it worldwide carried risks. Warnings about the growth of systemic risk in the banking sector were clear, with a loans to GDP ratio increasing significantly. This indicated that some countries, including Japan, would later face a banking crisis. It was this same process that fueled the mortgage and real estate boom in the United States and the United Kingdom in the 1980s and 2000s. The same process gave rise to the Roaring Twenties in the 1920s. American banks lent on shares as collateral, and the principle was always the same. When a bank generously issued new loans, it created new money that flowed into the stock market, driving up stock prices. Each bank accepted a percentage of the shares as collateral, but the cumulative effect of all banks inflated the entire market. In Japan, the total value of private land grew from 14.2 trillion yen in 1969 to 2,000 trillion yen in 1989. In 1989, Yasushi Mino, the new governor of the Bank of Japan, declared that the previous policy of monetary easing had caused an increase in land values and announced a restriction on real estate loans. Starting from 1990, land and commodity prices stopped growing. The stock market experienced a 32% crash, and in July 1991, lending quota directives were suddenly halted, catching officials and bankers of the Bank of Japan by surprise. They found themselves unable to plan loans as the quota set by the directives had been exhausted. The banks, frightened by the risk, not only stopped lending to speculators but also restricted loans to anyone else. This led to the loss of over 5 million jobs in Japan, with many people unable to find alternative employment. Suicide became the most frequent cause of death among males aged 20 to 44. The economy faced a devastating decline. Between 1990 and 2003, 212,000 companies failed, and the stock market experienced an 80% decline. Land prices in major cities plummeted by 84%. Some economists seemed relieved because the decline was evidence that the Japanese economic system was not as robust as previously thought. And so, Japan embarked on a new phase of its economic history, supported by an awareness of its past mistakes and the determination to adopt fundamental changes. But what will be the future of the Japanese economy? Will the country manage to overcome the crisis and emerge as an even stronger economic power? The Ministry of Finance, convinced that interest rates were the right tool, pressured the Bank of Japan to lower them until the official rate reached 0.1%. Many economists predicted an economic recovery, however, despite the claims from financial press and central banks that rate cuts stimulate growth while other interest rates slow it down. There is no concrete evidence of this relationship. The Ministry of Finance sought other measures to revive the economy, such as asking the Bank of Japan to sell large amounts of yen and buy American dollars, thereby lowering the yen's exchange rate and boosting exports. Independent observers argued that domestic demand should be supported by public spending, and consequently, the demand for loans would increase. The government, following this approach, implemented 10 stimulation programs between 1992 and 2002, amounting to a total of 146 trillion yen, causing Japan's public debt to reach 230% of GDP, the highest in the world as of 2011. The Ministry of Finance found itself short of solutions, while observers blamed the Japanese economic system for the recession. Reconciling the problem of debt in the banking sector and deflation proved to be very challenging. To safeguard the banking sector, a central bank can buy the liabilities of banks with money created for that purpose, giving them the nominal value of assets that often worth much less. This tactic was adopted by the Bank of Japan after the war. Alternatively, a central bank can give money to banks, helping them realize significant profits. But could a lasting and sustainable solution be found? Japan faced a difficult choice in dealing with the economic crisis. Should it pursue a stricter policy to reduce public debt or continue to support the banking system? The dilemma was complex, and the various comments and analyses only fueled the debate. To save the domestic banking system, some central banks also monopolized certain markets, creating a kind of mini-bubble where banks heavily invested to make large profits. But the ultimate solution remained an enigma. Japan preferred to keep the truth about the origin of the Japanese economic miracle silent. This secret went to the grave, and the long recession remained an unresolved challenge. With the nation still trapped in an economic crisis, Japan had to confront its past and current choices to design the future of its economic system. A difficult and complex decision that would require deep reflection and unprecedented courage. A generation of bureaucrats and politicians governed during the 80s and 90s without fully understanding the true nature and purpose of their country's economy. Many Japanese economists had received postgraduate training in the United States, following the neoclassical economics line, which assumed the existence of a single type of economic system, free markets without restrictions, where shareholders and central banks reigned supreme. These economists mechanically repeated the theories of American economists. In the 80s, the Ministry of Finance of Japan enjoyed great prestige and respect, but by the mid-90s, the perception changed. Many observers had no doubts anymore. The Ministry of Finance was the cause of the recession. Demonstrations were organized by outraged citizens outside the ministry, and for the first time, prosecutors turned against this powerful government entity. Banks and their controllers were fiercely criticized for their actions, and scandals revealed secret connections between Ministry of Finance officials and bankers. Despite the difficulties in changing the institutional setup and promoting structural reforms due to vested interests at play, the government initiated a process of dismantling the power structure of the Ministry of Finance. Meanwhile, the Bank of Japan gained more influence and independence. In 1994, immediately after retiring as governor of the Bank of Japan, Yasushi Mino started a series of conferences in which he advocated changing the bank's rules. He argued that the Ministry of Finance had pushed the Bank of Japan to make wrong choices to avoid future problems. Mino believed that the Bank of Japan should be legally independent, leading to greater independence of the central bank. The scandals and the speculative bubble disaster also dragged the one-party system in power since 1955, represented by the Liberal Democratic Party. In the old system, political competition relied more on controlling local electoral districts through public works projects rather than political proposals. But in October 1997, for the first time in post-war history, all economic stimulus initiatives were proposed by politicians and not by bureaucrats. Japan was going through a period of profound transformation. From struggles against the power of bureaucrats and corruption to the increasing independence of the Bank of Japan, the country was opening up to new possibilities. However, the path to overcoming the recession and redefining its economic system would still be long and challenging, requiring the collaboration of all political and social forces in the country. Only time would reveal whether Japan would manage to rise again and chart a new course towards the future. At the beginning of 2001, a new type of politician emerged on the Japanese scene, becoming the Prime Minister. This man, very popular and often compared to figures like Margaret Thatcher and Ronald Reagan, had a clear message: no recovery without structural reforms. During a summit held in July 2001, he stated that, according to some, recovery might be possible even without reforms, but he emphasized that, in case of economic recovery, the will to implement structural reforms might wane. Therefore, his program would continue without counting on economic recovery without such reforms. This message was broadcasted daily throughout the nation via television screens in the course of 2001. In an attempt to encourage depositors to withdraw their money from banks and invest it in the stock market, the Japanese economic system was shifted towards an American-style market economy. In this way, deposit guarantees were abolished, and tax incentives were granted for stock investments. This turn towards American-style shareholder capitalism led to a significant increase in unemployment and income and wealth inequalities. The growth of these social problems was accompanied by an increase in suicide cases and episodes of violent crime. In 2002, the Bank of Japan began forcing banks to foreclose on the assets of defaulting clients, following an aggressive policy that contributed to worsening the bank's balance sheets. A minister for financial services opposed the Bank of Japan's proposals to finance the banks with tax revenues, fearing their nationalization. This minister was later removed by the Prime Minister and replaced by Enzo Takanaka. Takanaka implemented policies in favor of the central bank, supporting the foreclosure plans for insolvent individuals. An operational unit overseeing banking policies was then appointed, with 2 members coming from the Bank of Japan, one of whom was Takeshi Kimura. These members immediately requested accounting corrections that would negatively impact the bank's balance sheets and make nationalization inevitable. However, Morinaga, a renowned economist in Tokyo, objected that Takanaka's proposals, inspired by the Bank of Japan, would mainly benefit U.S. vulture funds, specialized in acquiring companies on the verge of bankruptcy. Among the many struggling companies, these vulture funds had difficulty finding attractive investment opportunities. Subsequent events demonstrated that Japan was grappling with a series of complex economic and political dilemmas. Stimulus and reform policies were generating contradictory impacts, while, in the meantime, U.S. vulture funds were exerting increasing influence on the country's dynamics. Meanwhile, Japan's economic situation was intertwined with that of other Asian nations, which also found themselves in a deep recession in the 1990s. These economies, known as the Asian Tigers, included South Korea, Thailand, and Indonesia. In 1997, these nations experienced a monetary crisis, with currencies collapsing by 60% to 80%. The roots of this crisis could be traced back to 1993 when the Asian Tigers had adopted aggressive deregulation policies in capital accounts and allowed international banking services, thus opening the door to foreign borrowing for the banking and entrepreneurial sectors. This liberalization of capital flows was driven by external pressures, with organizations such as the International Monetary Fund, the World Trade Organization, and the U.S. Treasury encouraging companies access to foreign loans. Neoclassical economic theory argued that free markets and the free movement of capital would stimulate economic growth. Once capital accounts were deregulated, central banks began offering enticing incentives to companies to borrow in foreign currency, making foreign currency loans more advantageous than domestic currency loans. However, the banks faced a low demand for loans from productive sectors of the economy, as many companies preferred to obtain financing from abroad. Thus, the banks were forced to extend loans to even high-risk clients. But the balance of current accounts remained unchanged, because foreign loans were accounted for as exports in the balance of payments. However, the situation became increasingly unsustainable when speculators began selling the currencies of these economies, putting the foreign currency reserves of their respective central banks in crisis. Futile attempts to maintain the currencies pegged to the US dollar led to a rapid erosion of foreign reserves. The Asian crisis, along with Japan's challenges, put the region's economies to the test. The world was witnessing a period of structural changes and economic instability on a global scale. The Asian crisis brought to light the power of the International Monetary Fund (IMF) and its ability to impose Conditions on financially troubled states. The countries affected by the crisis turned to Japan for assistance, as the country had substantial foreign reserves. However, Washington blocked any attempt of aid from Japan, stating that the solution should come through IMF intervention. IMF representatives arrived in the affected countries and dictated the terms of surrender, imposing a series of demands, including limits on credit creation and drastic regulatory reforms. The IMF also imposed a sharp increase in interest rates, leading to the collapse of many businesses and a rise in unemployment. The IMF was well aware of the consequences of its policies but seemed unconcerned about the devastating effects on the population and the economies of the affected countries. The IMF's demands caused the collapse of many financial institutions. But the fund insisted on letting them fail and selling them off at bargain prices, often to large foreign investment banks. Conversely, when a financial crisis hit the United States a year later, U.S. financial institutions received different treatment. The Federal Reserve, the central bank of the United States, intervened with targeted bailouts to prevent the failure of these financial institutions, thus preventing a systemic banking crisis. While the United States invoked free markets and demanded other countries to abide by the rules imposed by the IMF, they themselves seemed to not apply the same rules within their own borders. This double standard raised controversies and criticisms from some observers. The Asian crisis and the subsequent rescue of U.S. financial institutions highlighted disparities in the treatment of financial crises by international institutions. These events underscored the importance of structural reform of the global financial system and the rules of free markets. The European Commission, in its aspiration for the creation of the United States of Europe, has an implicit interest in weakening individual governments and the influence of democratic parliaments in Europe. It was found that the concept of central bank independence, as outlined in the Maastricht Treaty, emerged from a study commissioned by the European Commission itself in 1992, entitled A Single Currency for a United Europe. This study intended to demonstrate that central bank independence is synonymous with low inflation. But Professor James Ford of the University of Oxford demonstrated that the study was manipulated to achieve the desired result. Central banks around the world enjoy considerable, yet often poorly understood, power, and they operate in the shadows, answering to no one. Their decisions have a significant impact on the lives of citizens and the global economy. Whether it's the Bank of Japan, the Federal Reserve, or the Bank of England, examples of deception and manipulation abound. In the 1920s in the United States, banks were even encouraged to create money and lend it to speculators, leading to the Great Depression and demonstrating that a decentralized federal system made sense and could work better than centralized control. In the 1990s, the Japanese were persuaded to believe that their economic system, which had ensured prosperity and equality, should be replaced with a free market system. While Japan's transformation was still ongoing, central bankers struck again. This time led by the International Monetary Fund, hitting the economies of the Asian tigers. The current European debt crisis is another example of how central banks can manipulate and create public consensus for structural reforms, even at the cost of prolonged recessions and economic difficulties. This behavior is decidedly an abuse of power and raises doubts about how much citizens can be manipulated at such a high cost and dishonesty. Looking at today, we can analyze the country's growth in 10 points that show how Japan has faced challenges from the past and built a promising future. 1. First point, economic and political reforms. In the aftermath of the economic crisis that struck Japan in the early 1990s, the country found itself at a crossroads. Faced with a stagnant economy and a banking system in turmoil, Japan realized the need for drastic changes. The government understood that to emerge stronger, it had to embrace reforms that would transform the economic landscape. With unwavering determination, Japan embarked on a journey of bold economic and political reforms. The goal was clear: to stimulate economic growth and enhance the nation's global competitiveness. And so, a wave of structural changes swept across the country. First and foremost, there was a focus on deregulation. The government sought to remove barriers that hindered business growth and innovation. By cutting red tape and promoting a more business-friendly environment, Japan attracted both domestic and foreign investments. Moreover, the country directed its efforts towards fostering entrepreneurship. New policies and initiatives were introduced to support startups and encourage risk-taking. This approach breathed new life into the economy and brought forth a wave of innovation and creativity. Furthermore, Japan invested heavily in its infrastructure, revamping its transportation. Second point, investments in technological innovation. The country has become a beacon of innovation by investing in research and development in sectors such as electronics, automotive, and robotics. Japan is universally recognized as one of the world's leading pioneers in technological innovation, achieved through a steadfast commitment to promoting research and development in various key sectors. The focus on innovation has significantly contributed to the country's success in electronics, automotive, and robotics. Below, we delve into the reasons and outcomes of this investment in technological innovation. Electronics. Japan has traditionally been acknowledged as a pioneer in the electronics industry. Since the 1950s and 1960s, the country has developed and marketed a range of cutting-edge electronic products, including televisions, VCRs, cameras, and other consumer electronics. Japanese companies have continued to invest substantial resources in research and development of state-of-the-art technologies. This has enabled them to remain competitive and maintain a prominent position in the global electronics market. Automotive industry. Japan has become one of the world's leading automobile manufacturers, with companies such as Toyota, Honda, Nissan, and others attaining international fame. This success has been driven by their dedication to technological innovation. Japanese automakers have heavily invested in researching new technologies, such as hybrid and electric engines, advanced safety systems, and intelligent mobility solutions. These investments have allowed them to improve vehicle efficiency and the quality of the end product while upholding a reputation for reliability and durability. Robotics. Japan is a global leader in robotics and automation. Japanese companies have developed a wide range of industrial, assistive, and entertainment robots. The interest in robotics in Japan has also been stimulated by the growing need to address the demographic challenge associated with an aging population. Consequently, the country has invested in research and development to create robots capable of assisting the elderly in daily activities and supporting various industries. Research institutions and collaboration. Japan has a rich network of research institutions, universities, and technological development centers. These institutions collaborate with private companies to promote innovation and the discovery of new technologies. The Japanese government actively supports research through funding and incentive programs for innovation, encouraging both large companies and startups to participate. Innovation culture. Japanese society fosters a strong culture of innovation and continuous improvement, known as kaizen. This concept is ingrained in the Japanese mentality, encouraging people to constantly seek ways to improve and address challenges with creative solutions. This mentality has been a significant factor in supporting investments in technological innovation at the national level. Japan has become a beacon of technological innovation due to its unwavering commitment to investing in research and development in key sectors such as electronics, the automotive industry, and robotics. This has enabled the country to remain competitive globally and continue to drive technological progress in numerous fields. The third point, gender equality, is a crucial aspect of Japan's development journey. Over the years, the country has made significant efforts to promote gender equality and provide women with the opportunity to reach their full potential in society and the economy. In the past, Japan was characterized by strong gender disparities, with women often confined to traditional roles within the family and society. However, starting in the 1980s and 1990s, the nation embarked on significant initiatives to change this situation and open new opportunities for women. One of the first measures taken was the enactment of laws that promoted gender equality in the workforce. Tools were introduced to combat wage discrimination between men and women and to encourage the presence of women in leadership and managerial positions within companies. Additionally, Japan implemented policies aimed at supporting women in balancing family responsibilities with work. Parental leave programs were established to allow both mothers and fathers to spend more time with their children without fear of repercussions in the workplace. These efforts have contributed to creating a more inclusive corporate culture and encouraging more women to enter the workforce and pursue ambitious professional careers. Another significant step forward was made in the field of female political representation. Japan worked to increase the number of women elected to prominent political positions, encouraging greater female participation in the public sphere and political decision-making. However, despite these advancements, Japan still faces some challenges concerning gender equality. Women often encounter obstacles in advancing their careers, and gender disparities persist in some areas of society. The country continues to grapple with the challenge of combating gender stereotypes and promoting a cultural shift that fosters greater equality between men and women. Furthermore, the aging population has led to a growing demand for a workforce, making the involvement of women in the labor market even more critical to sustain the economy and ensure the country's future prosperity. Japan has made significant strides in promoting gender equality, but there are still challenges to overcome. The country's commitment to promoting equality and giving women a prominent role in society represents a crucial key to its continued development and the creation of a promising future for all its citizens. Fourth point, aging society. The aging population has brought new challenges, but Japan has developed solutions to ensure the well-being of the elderly. As life expectancy increases and birth rates decline, the proportion of elderly individuals in the population rises, leading to a demographic shift with far-reaching implications for healthcare, social services, and the economy. Japan, in particular, has been at the forefront of dealing with the challenges posed by an aging population and has developed innovative solutions to ensure the well-being of its elderly citizens. Let's delve deeper into this topic. Healthcare and long-term care. With a growing number of elderly individuals, Japan has placed a strong emphasis on improving healthcare services and long-term care facilities. The country has invested in developing advanced medical technologies, fostering research in age-related diseases, and promoting preventive healthcare measures. Additionally, Japan has established a comprehensive long-term care insurance system that provides support to the elderly for various services, such as home care, daycare centers, and residential care facilities. Robotics and assistive devices. As mentioned earlier, Japan is a leader in the field of robotics and automation. The country has utilized this technological expertise to develop robots and assistive devices tailored to meet the needs of the elderly. These robots can provide companionship, assist with daily tasks, and even help with physical rehabilitation. The integration of robotics in elderly care has not only improved the quality of life for seniors but has also eased the burden on caregivers. Age-friendly infrastructure. Japan has taken significant steps to create age-friendly infrastructure that accommodates the needs of older individuals. This includes building accessible public spaces, designing public transportation systems with features for the elderly, and promoting senior-friendly housing options. Such initiatives aim to enhance the mobility and independence of elderly citizens. Social engagement and community support. To combat social isolation and loneliness among the elderly, Japan has encouraged community-based initiatives and support networks. Programs have been implemented to foster social engagement, such as senior centers, community events, and intergenerational activities where seniors can interact with younger generations. These initiatives help combat feelings of isolation and promote a sense of belonging. Silver economy. Japan has recognized the potential of the elderly population as a valuable economic resource. The so-called silver economy refers to the economic activities and markets centered around the needs and preferences of older consumers. Businesses in Japan have embraced this concept, developing products and services that cater specifically to the aging population, from healthcare products to leisure and entertainment offerings. Workforce participation. Japan has encouraged the continued participation of older individuals in the workforce. The concept of ikigai, which translates to a reason for being, emphasizes the importance of staying active and engaged in meaningful work throughout life. Companies have implemented policies to retain older employees, and some have even introduced flexible work options to accommodate the needs of elderly workers. Japan's aging society has brought forth new challenges, but the country has proactively developed solutions to address them and ensure the well-being of its elderly population. Through investments in healthcare, assistive technologies, age-friendly infrastructure, community engagement, and the promotion of a silver economy, Japan is striving to create an inclusive and supportive environment for its aging citizens. These initiatives not only benefit the elderly but also contribute to the overall strength and resilience of Japanese society as it navigates demographic changes in the 21st century. Fifth point, environmental sustainability, highlights Japan's dedication to preserving the environment and adopting sustainable practices. As a highly developed nation with a strong industrial base, Japan has recognized the importance of environmental conservation and has undertaken various initiatives to ensure a greener and more sustainable future. One of the critical aspects of Japan's environmental efforts is its investment in renewable energy sources. In response to concerns about climate change and the need to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, Japan has been actively promoting clean energy solutions. The country has embraced solar, wind, and hydroelectric power, with significant investments in research and development to improve the efficiency and affordability of renewable technologies. Moreover, Japan has made strides in energy conservation and efficiency. The nation has developed innovative technologies and implemented policies to reduce energy consumption in various sectors, including transportation, industry, and residential buildings. The emphasis on energy efficiency has not only helped in environmental preservation but also led to economic benefits by reducing energy costs and increasing productivity. Waste management and recycling have also been central to Japan's sustainability efforts. The country has implemented advanced waste disposal systems and encouraged citizens to separate and recycle their waste effectively. This approach has significantly reduced landfill waste and promoted a circular economy where materials are reused and repurposed. Additionally, Japan has focused on sustainable urban development. Through smart city planning, green spaces, and eco-friendly infrastructure, the country has aimed to create more livable and environmentally conscious cities. Green architecture, with energy-efficient buildings and sustainable construction practices, has become a standard in Japan's urban landscape. Furthermore, Japan has taken an active role in international efforts to address environmental challenges. The country has participated in various global climate conferences and collaborated with other nations on initiatives to combat climate change and protect biodiversity. Japan's commitment to international cooperation underscores its recognition of the global nature of environmental issues. Despite these achievements, Japan, like many countries, faces ongoing environmental challenges. For instance, the country continues to tackle pollution and the impacts of industrialization on ecosystems. Additionally, Japan is susceptible to natural disasters such as earthquakes and tsunamis, which require a proactive approach to disaster preparedness and mitigation. Japan's commitment to environmental sustainability is evident through its investments in renewable energy, energy efficiency, waste management, sustainable urban development, and international cooperation. By addressing environmental challenges and adopting sustainable practices, Japan is striving to ensure a healthier planet for current and future generations while maintaining its status as a highly developed nation. Sixth point, integration into the international community. In recent decades, Japan has significantly strengthened its ties with other nations, becoming a key player on the international stage. This development has been driven by various factors, including its advanced economy, strategic geographical location, and commitment to multilateral diplomacy. Global economy: Japan is one of the world's major economies and one of the largest exporters of manufactured goods. Japanese companies such as Toyota, Sony, Panasonic, Honda, and many others have a strong global presence and influence various industrial sectors. The country has established strong trade relations with many countries, both in Asian and Western regions, contributing to international economic growth. Multilateral diplomacy: Japan actively participates as a member in various international organizations, including the United Nations, the G7, the G20, and the World Trade Organization, WTO. It also engages in trade treaties, cooperation agreements, and international forums, allowing it to influence global political decisions and address transnational challenges such as climate change, security, and poverty. International aid: Japan is committed to providing aid and technical assistance to developing countries through cooperation programs and development projects. This initiative not only contributes to the progress of partner nations but also enhances Japan's reputation on the international stage, showcasing its role as a responsible actor in the global community. Seventh point, cultural sector of Japan. The Japanese cultural industry has captured a vast international audience and become a significant pillar of the national economy. Three key aspects of this sector include anime and manga. Japanese animation, anime, and comics, manga, have gained immense popularity worldwide. Famous works such as Dragon Ball, Naruto, One Piece, Studio Ghibli films, and many others have captured the hearts of people of all ages and nationalities. This phenomenon has led to an increase in cultural tourism to Japan, with fans visiting locations and production studios related to their favorite series. Video games: the Japanese video game industry has produced iconic titles and successful franchises with global appeal. Companies like Nintendo, Sony Interactive Entertainment, and Capcom have created games like Super Mario, The Legend of Zelda, Final Fantasy, and many others that have had a lasting impact on global pop culture. Moreover, Japan has been a pioneer in the field of esports, hosting major tournaments and competitions that attract millions of viewers worldwide. Cultural tourism: the allure of Japanese cultural expressions has resulted in an upsurge in cultural tourism to the country. Visitors from all over the world are fascinated by Japan's blend of tradition and modernity, unique cuisine, historical shrines, traditional celebrations, and cultural events. Cultural tourism has become a significant source of revenue for the Japanese economy. 8. Scientific research in Japan. Japan has a long tradition of scientific research and has developed a solid knowledge base with significant discoveries and innovations in various scientific fields. Some notable highlights include advanced technology. Japan is renowned for being a leader in technology and innovation. It has contributed to significant advancements in areas such as electronics, robotics, nanotechnology, materials engineering, and more. Japanese companies are at the forefront of developing electronic devices, automobiles, industrial machinery, and high-tech products. Medical discoveries. Japanese medical research has led to important discoveries and innovations in medicine and health care. Japanese researchers have contributed to the development of new therapies, drugs, diagnostic equipment, and surgical techniques, helping to improve the health and quality of life for people worldwide. Energy and environment. Japan has invested significantly in researching new energy sources and developing technologies to address environmental challenges. Particularly, the nation has focused efforts on sustainable technologies and renewable energies to reduce reliance on traditional energy sources and minimize environmental impact. Space exploration. Japan is actively involved in space exploration. The Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency, JAXA, has launched several successful missions, including space probes, Earth observation satellites, and collaborations in international space missions. JAXA has also contributed to the International Space Station, ISS, and scientific research in space. And that's it for today's episode of MoneyDrip. We've explored the fascinating world of finance, economic crises, and the powerful influence of central banks. Remember, knowledge is power, and understanding these complex issues can empower us to make informed decisions in our financial journey. 9th point, education and higher education. The emphasis on academic excellence has contributed to the development of a highly skilled workforce. Education has always been a priority in Japan, and the country has developed a highly efficient and competitive educational system. From a young age, Japanese students are exposed to a rigorous academic curriculum, with a strong emphasis on core subjects such as mathematics, sciences, and languages. The Japanese education system promotes a culture of diligent study and discipline, encouraging students to strive for excellence. This has contributed to the formation of a highly skilled workforce, with well-developed technical skills and analytical abilities. Furthermore, Japan places a particular emphasis on higher education. Japanese universities are renowned internationally for their academic excellence and cutting-edge research. Japanese students have access to a wide range of study programs and opportunities for advanced research, contributing to the development of talent in various fields such as science, engineering, medicine, economics, and arts. This approach to education has produced a highly specialized workforce capable of tackling the challenges of a modern and technologically advanced economy. The emphasis on academic excellence has contributed to the success of the Japanese industry and its leadership position in innovative sectors globally. 10th point, leadership in international trade. Japan is a prominent player in global trade, exporting high-quality products worldwide. Japan has long been one of the key players in international trade. Its open and export-oriented economy has allowed the country to establish itself as one of the leading exporters globally. A key factor in the success of Japanese exports is the quality of products manufactured in the country. The Japanese manufacturing industry is renowned for producing high-quality goods, ranging from cutting-edge technology to automobiles, industrial machinery, and consumer electronics. Dedication to quality control and innovation has made Japanese products highly reliable and competitive in international markets. Additionally, Japan has a strong network of trade agreements with other nations, facilitating access to foreign markets. It has established enduring economic relationships with numerous countries, facilitating the exchange of goods and services globally. Japan's leadership in international trade has also been supported by targeted economic policies. The country has adopted strategies to promote exports and support the internationalization of Japanese businesses, thereby fostering a greater global presence. The combination of high-quality products, strong international presence, and effective trade policies has allowed Japan to maintain a prominent position in global trade. The nation continues to be a significant player in international trade, contributing to the economic growth of the country and the consolidation of its international relations. And that's it for today's episode of Money Drip. We've explored the fascinating world of finance, economic crises, and the powerful influence of central banks. Remember, knowledge is power, and understanding these complex issues can empower us to make informed decisions in our financial journey. But our exploration doesn't end here. Be sure to subscribe to Money Drip and hit that notification bell, so you never miss an update on the latest financial news, market trends, and insightful analysis. Together, we'll navigate the twists and turns of the global economy. As we move forward, let's keep questioning the status quo and challenging the narratives pushed upon us. The financial world is ever-changing, and by staying informed, we can better adapt to its fluctuations and protect our wealth. If you found today's informative and thought-provoking episode, give us a thumbs up and share it with your friends, family, and fellow money enthusiasts. Let's build a community of financially savvy individuals, supporting each other on our paths to financial success. Remember, financial education is a lifelong journey, and we're here to accompany you every step of the way. So, until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep making those money drips. From all of us at Money Drip, thank you for joining us. Stay tuned for more exciting content. See you soon.